We're sending the boss baby a French dispatch and we're dumping Evan Hansen on a Dune. I'm Van Connor.
And I'm Becks Perfect, and this is Off Screen, your 7-day guide to everything movies.
Boom.
Groovy.
Welcome to Off Screen, and Van, I have to applaud you each and every week for coming up with more and more of a better intro. That was particularly excellent, and you should be giving yourself a pat on the back.
They can't all be gems. Some weeks we get some really naff. Like, how are you going to do the thing with Eurydice Guzman? Was it last week?
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes we get some stumpers.
I appreciate the effort when you do have one of those, though. So welcome to Off Screen, everyone. Welcome to another week, actually a blockbuster week of movies. We've got a bit of Wes Anderson in there, a bit of Denis Villeneuve. We've got a big boss baby, and we've got something else as well that I'm not sure that Van is... Well, actually, I'm going to say to you guys, you're going to want to wait and listen to hear what Van's got to say about Evan Hansen, because it's going to be worth it. But let's kick off with our first movie of the day, which is it The French Dispatch that we're kicking off with?
The French Dispatch, yes, the return of Wes Anderson. So, you know we must be entering award season. Like, award season's got to be coming because Wes Anderson's back. That's like the rule, isn't he? Also,
it
can I
feels
just
like
add,
we've just... Yeah.
You know when you see the two, do you ever mistake? Do you ever mistake Noah Baumbach and Wes Anderson? Because every time I see Greta Gerwig, every time I see Greta Gerwig at a premiere, I'm like, is she married to Wes Anderson? And they're like, oh no, that's the other guy. Yeah,
it's so confusing. But I was going to say, is it award season again? We've just had it. Like, Emerald Fennell has just given that really cringe-worthy acceptance speech. I mean, that literally just happened.
It's coming up, and you know it's coming up because we're starting to get all the trailers for the tragedy of Lady Macbeth or whatever it is that the Coen brothers. Anyway,
another Frances McDormand Oscar for you. There we go.
Exactly, and funnily enough, she's in The French Dispatch. So, right, Wes Anderson being Wes Anderson in what might be the most Wes Andersonian movie yet. So, this is the story of a Kansas City newspaper, like weekend supplement edition. So It's the supplement edition for this Kansas City newspaper that's based in a fictional small town in France. So far, so Wes Anderson. That's populated by this smorgasbord of hipster American journalists. And this runs from like the 50s to the 80s, depending on which bit you're watching. All-star cast, so it includes, Bill Murray, Tilda Swinton's in there, Owen Wilson's in there, Jeffrey Wright's in there. And Jeffrey Wright, incidentally, doing a brilliant rendition of James Baldwin, because he even does the famous interview from I Am Not Your Negro. Like, he does that with Liev Schreiber, who was also in this movie. Let's keep going through this cast. So, Timothée Chalamet, Adrian Brody, Benicio. It's a Wes Anderson movie. You know there's going to be a hell of a cast roster. It's a top-tier talented troupe, as it were. And over the course of 3 stories, we get 3 of the articles from The French Dispatch, like a New Yorker-style magazine. And we see each of these stories that are then going to be reported. We see each of them, how they actually unfolded. Now, this is the second of the 3 stories, which stars Timothée Chalamet and Frances McDormand, and is about an aspiring revolutionary in, I think, the 50s, who happens to have a sort of May-September romance with a journalist played by Frances McDormand.
I'm naked, Mrs. Clemens.
I can see that.
Why are you crying?
Tear gas. Also, I suppose I'm sad.
Please turn away. I feel shy about my new muscles.
Go tell your parents you're home. They're worried.
I'm expected back on the barricades.
I didn't see any barricades.
Well, we're still constructing them.
Uh-huh. What are you writing?
Our manifesto? I told them not to invite Paul, by the way. Maybe you're sad, but you don't seem lonely to me.
Exactly.
I saw you at the protest on top of a bookcase taking notes. Is there a story in us? For the people of Kansas?
Maybe.
Then you should study our resolutions. Or anyway, will you proofread it? My parents think you're a good writer.
Hot.
Yeah, I can feel uncomfortable with all that sexual tension.
I was like, did you feel like you needed a cold shower after that? You needed
So I've got 2 questions for you. Number 1, on the casting. Is Saoirse Ronan in this?
Yes, she is actually, but it's a Wes Anderson movie, so she only turns up for like 2 lines and you sort of forget, because that's what happens with big name actors in these movies,
Yeah, she was in...
Edward Norton has a similar thing, actually, in this. Edward Norton turns up for a very tiny bit as well.
Okay, interesting. Okay, and then so I am not a avid Wes Anderson fan. I like Isle of Dogs. I also like the one thing that made me step into this space is actually the Grand Budapest Hotel, and that for me is kind of the most commercial of his offering. So where does this sit for a general audience who might not, be watching every single Wes Anderson movie? Will they enjoy this one?
One and a half of the three acts of this movie will entertain you, I think.
Okay.
The first act with Adrian Brody and Benicio del Toro is fantastic. I think that's genuinely great. Laughed myself senseless. I actually cared about the story. I thought the performances are very good. Adrian Brody doing something very different as well, like more madcap than I think we've ever seen him. The second story, which is the Chalamet and Frances McDormand one, yowzers. I'm sorry, you're many things, Wes Anderson. You are not Woody Allen. Thankfully. The third one of these, you've got Jeffrey Wright and Liev Schreiber sort of hang all together with this James Baldwin bit, but the rest of it just feels quite convoluted and doesn't quite work. It's a mixed bag. I think he's trying to have his cake and eat it. Even the staunchest Wes Anderson fan would say that there are different levels, different tones that he goes for, and trying to shove all of those flavors into the same ice cream sundae does not make a tasty dessert. You know what I mean? Still looks great. Looks like nothing else you've seen, nothing else you'll see in the multiplex, because it's a Wes Anderson movie. Of course it does. And it sounds like nothing else you'd see in cinemas because it's a Wes Anderson movie, but it's also not very coherent or consistent. And unfortunately, that is very unlike a Wes Anderson movie. So take from that what you will, I would say.
Okay, fair enough. So probably one for the fans, not one for everyone else. Yeah, okay, fair enough. Okay, let's move swiftly on to our next movie of the day. Now, I'm going to tell you, ladies and gents, that I have been hearing from the Van Connor grapevine that he has been desperate to talk about our next movie. Take of that what you will. Let's go into the synopsis to kick this off of Dear Evan Hansen.
I mean, to be honest with you, I'm very inclined to just stop reviewing the movie for the rest of this week on every slot I do and just simply tell people the plot, which, rather like watching it in a film, if you simply put it out into the cold light of day, is absolutely horrifying. I'm sure it works great as a stage show. I think you've seen the stage show, haven't you? Have you seen?
I haven't seen the stage show, but I know it was award-winning. I think it's there was some really great actors that were in it. I will rack my brain to find out who that is and remind you of it. But yeah, this one is very much one of those ones that's followed on to suddenly now becoming a film in the light of its success on stage.
I only know of it from ads on the tube. Just full disclosure, that's all I know of it. So obviously I went into this movie cold, and what I was presented with... oh my God. Oh, wow. Okay. Evan Hansen is, I think, a 16-year-old boy who for some reason is presented to us as like a mid-30s version of Paul Simon wearing Free Guy cosplay. It's the weirdest thing. And he's got cast.
So it's Ben Platt, isn't it?
Ben Platt, yes. Ben Platt, who's noticeably the only cast member to carry over from the stage show. Coincidentally, his dad is a producer on this. Take from that what you will. Right, Evan Hansen's a 16-year-old boy with crippling mental health issues that are also very hazily ill-defined, that evidently render him absolutely incapable of functioning in any way, shape, or form in the outside world. Again, this is played by Ben Platt. In his mid-30s, Free Guy cosplay, Paul Simon. Anyway, goes to school, I think, on his first day, and he's doing this therapy assignment where he has to write letters to himself. Hence the clever title of the movie, Dear Evan Hansen. The school bully, presented to us as this sort of Columbine-level psychopath, gets into it with him and snatches one of the letters, and then happens to off himself, I think, the same night. The reason I keep bringing up that this is on the same day and the same night is because in the next scene we get told that this was a week later, and the movie in no way presents that passage of time. It's one of the many ways in which they've really not thought this movie through. Because the kid has killed himself with Evan Hansen's letter on his body, the parents, played by Amy Adams, I almost said Amy Acker, would have been a better movie, Amy Adams and the brother-in-law from Caprica, whose name I forget, wrongly assume that Evan was the dead kid's best friend that they just didn't know about. And they sort of bring him into the fold. Now, out of partly awkwardness, he goes along with this. I say partly because he's more motivated by this overriding desire he has to get with the dead kid's sister. All of this, incidentally, is a musical. Here's Evan Hansen.
So you just didn't eat last night?
I wasn't hungry. You're a senior in high school. You need to be able to order dinner for yourself. You can do it all online. You don't have to talk to anybody.
Okay, well, that's not true, actually, though, because the credit card's expired, so you have to meet the delivery person at the door. You know, you have to pay them with cash at the door. You have to greet them. You know, you have to figure out the proper greeting.
Okay.
This is what you're supposed to be working on, sweetheart, with Dr. Sherman. Have you been doing those letters he wants you to do? Dear Evan Hansen.
I mean, I've been trying to.
Those letters are important, honey. You have to keep working. We can't go back to where you were last year, right?
There has been a mixed bag of reviews. So even you spoke, Mark Commode, who found it, I think, was the words
cute,
charming?
I think so. Charming or cute? It was one of the C words and not the one I would have used. Cute or charming, I think. I forget which one it was, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, compared to his review and initial thoughts of it, why is yours so scathing?
This plays like what would happen if you dragged Ryan Murphy out of whatever overpriced restaurant he was sat in at this given moment in time, put a gun to his head and said, right, I want you to turn you into a musical. This is exactly what you'd get. I mean, Ben Platt is deranged. First of all, Ben Platt is, he's done this on stage. So he's done this many, many times. He will have done this over 1,000 times. I think I did the math at one point and worked out the number of shows he would have had to have performed. And it is over 1,000, I think. Obviously, he has a very distinct handle and he knows this character and he knows how to play it. ... on stage. This is not stage. The rest of the cast of this are not stage musical performers. They're actors. Amy Adams ain't playing this for Broadway. Amy Adams is playing this for an Oscar. Julianne Moore, who incidentally cannot sing the word truck. It's the most bizarre thing. She does a whole song where she has to say the word truck about 9 times. She can't pronounce the word truck. It's bizarre. They're all playing it like actors. Caitlin Dever, who incidentally plays the would-be love interest in this, the dead kid sister that he's trying to get with, because this is a really heartfelt movie. They're all actors. Film actors. Cinematic performers. Ben Platt ain't at all. No. And what you get as a result is this movie in which everyone's playing it straight. And I've not even really gotten to the biggest issue with this yet. Then you have Ben Platt whisper singing in everyone's faces, playing it like this madcap, unhinged stage performer, and then you get to the big problem. I need to know how it's okay that this performance exists. I need to know, genuinely, post Breaking Bad, post the Sun on Breaking Bad speaking out about this, post Donald Trump making that famous speech in which he did a certain shaky-handed gesture, and post the entire existence and response to Tropic Thunder, how in the hell this is acceptable? Doing it with this madcap, unhinged whisper sing performance right into the face of, for instance, Caitlin Dever, is where you start to think of certain tweets that other critics have put out. Things like, this works a lot better if you just assume that he killed the other kid early on instead of him actually taking his own life. And that actually makes all the sense in the world. This is deranged. This is the kind of film that I think if you found anything redeeming in, you need to have a conversation with someone about something that's clearly wrong in your life. This is no, not at all. Putting aside the fact that it's a crap film, that performance, I'm sorry, is offensive.
Welcome back to Off Screen, and I'm hoping after that short break that Van has recovered from how he feels about Dear Evan Hansen. Are you okay?
It's still better than Cats. I mean, academically, just by having a beginning, middle, and end is just automatically better than Cats. But you know what? Our next film, at least, is significantly better than Dear Evan Hansen.
Yes.
I actually would willingly watch this again without having to have a gun to my head or loved ones threatened. So should we? You've seen this as well, which I'm looking forward to discussing. Can I ask then, before we talk about the Boss Baby 2 Family Business, genuine question, because I've not queued you up for this.
Okay.
Prior to watching the Boss Baby 2 Family Business, did you remember anything about the Boss Baby other than Alec Baldwin as the Boss Baby?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah. Did you also
and it didn't
make the
affect
same
my...
mistake I did?
Go on.
So, did you also make the same mistake I did, which is you mixed it up with certain elements of the plot of Storks?
Oh, I haven't seen Storks.
Oh, okay.
So no.
I had that problem all the way through. I kept thinking, But doesn't it work this way? Like, oh no, that was the Andy Samberg one. That was Storks. So yes,
Right.
Boss Baby,
No.
talking baby, who's Alec Baldwin, who babies are born with a sort of
so from the first film. So you kind of don't need to watch the first film. You'll get the gist from this anyway.
Yeah.
But basically, he is he was the Boss Baby. He has his brother Tim as well, who is the other kid in the first movie. They have now both grown up, and as a result have both drifted apart from each other. So the Boss Baby has become an incredibly successful businessman, and Tim has been your suburban, normal family man. In fact, he is still living like a big kid because he's become like a house husband and a stay-at-home dad because his wife is the breadwinner. And there is nothing wrong with that. And he has then his daughter, so one of his daughters is a high-achieving I suppose preschooler or not preschool. Yeah, like I don't really know what age she's preschool. Yeah, infant school. Yeah. And then his younger baby daughter decides to get into the family business, and before you know it, she reveals herself as yet another little boss baby.
Thanks so much for coming in, ladies. Would you like some fruit?
Ow, what was that? Can we get on with this? I miss my teeth.
I've decided who's going on the mission.
Thank you. I accept.
Both of you.
Yes! No.
Baby Core wants to get the team back together, huh?
No. They think that's a terrible idea.
Of course they do.
Well, I'm the boss, Applesauce, and I think you two are better together than you are apart.
Well, I work alone. Or at least not with him.
Hey, there's no I in team.
Actually, there's no you in team either, but there is an M-E.
But teamwork doesn't seem work.
Ah! If you want something done right, do it yourself.
We're all in it together.
Every man for himself.
One is the loneliest number.
The eyes have it.
We the people.
Yes, so Amy Sedaris there as the new Boss Baby. Of course, the biggest question I had going into this is obviously you've got Alec Baldwin and James Marsden both back as Tim and Ted, I think are the names. Ted is the Boss Baby. The biggest question I had going into this is it was kind of like the Shrek problem. It's when you end Shrek with them getting married, where do you go from there? And the makers of Shrek have said in recent years that they deeply regret ending that first movie that way because it tied their hands for the story. They wouldn't have ended it if they knew that there was any possibility of them having a sequel. Boss Baby did the same kind of thing by allowing them to grow up at the end, because what do? You have to simply have prequels that take place before, and of course the idea is, well, we'll just turn them into babies. And frankly, within the sort of twisted logic of, with the first movie, that makes sense. The only thing this likes, because it's exactly as good as the first one. It's exactly as good. I'd argue that I think Jeff Goldblum is the villain here, and I think the villain, was it Steve Buscemi in the first one, I think?
I can't remember, but he's Dr. Armstrong in this one.
Yeah, I'd argue the biggest problem with this one is they've sanded down the edges a bit too much. The sharp wit, which, don't get me wrong, played a lot better, presumably, when they were making the first one, and it was pre-Trump. Because we've got to forget the first one was made in a time before corporate America had really shown its nastier face that it has in the last 5 years, and the business world had seen something of an upheaval. So this presumably played a lot better. By filing down those nastier edges, what you have is a film that I don't think parents will particularly engage with anywhere near as well. Alec Baldwin is still faintly amusing, and that works. But Amy Sedaris, for instance, who I still can't tell you what we're supposed to know Amy Sedaris from. She's been in movies for decades. I don't know what she's supposed to be, what her breakout role is originally. But this just doesn't quite hold together as well. But it's still got the flashy, colourful set pieces and the sort of wacky humour. My nephew thought it was funny. He's 3. That kind of says all you need to know about the Boss Baby. The parents are going to have a nap. The kids are going to enjoy,
No, I'm with you on that. And I think, for me, it was, it was fun to a point, but it definitely feels more of a kid's movie rather than that bridging movie that brings in the adults as well. So, look, it's still very much worth your while to watch it. It's, actually, I think it's quite long for what it is. It's an hour and 47 minutes.
It is, actually, yeah.
It did drag a little bit for me, leading up to a big sort of crescendo at the end. But overall, a solid watch. I'm not going to say anything more. If we were to pit it at out of 5 stars, I'd probably say it's a solid 3.5.
As a babysitting distraction, it's great.
Yeah,
absolutely. Just if you want to watch something to watch with the kids, they'll zone out on this. You can have a nap and they will zone out. And you know what? For the bits you're awake, perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. Yeah.
Exactly. Let's move swiftly on because there is a big film that I want you to talk about, and I can't wait to hear the biggest. We were just chatting off air about whether or not this is absolutely essential to watch on the big screen, and I think we're going towards yes, absolutely it is. Of course, we're talking about Denis Villeneuve's Dune, highly anticipated, especially around science fiction aficionados, worried slightly that a general audience isn't going to rush the cinema to give it the props that it deserves. And that was exactly the same problem that Blade Runner 2049 had. But I know you watched it. Every review I've seen has been like breathtaking. It's amazing. How does it stack up?
I'm not going to bury the lead on this one because, first of all, we are going to have to talk about the plot of Dune for people who don't know Dune, and that could take 10 solid minutes if you phrased it in a delicate way. I will say, though, fans of Dune are going to see this, and they have no reason, other than not getting a part 2, they'll have no reason ever to complain that they were not presented with the definitive interpretation and adaptation of Frank Herbert's seminal work of science fiction. It's gonna make no money, like none. But this has no blockbuster mainstream appeal whatsoever. Oh, I'm sorry. Are the multiplex audiences turning out for Timothée Chalamet? Are they really? Yeah, I see him leading the next Marvel movie. No, they're not turning out. No one's guzzling popcorn through this, okay? But you know what? It is an excellent, excellent science fiction movie. It's absolutely in the same league, maybe though not on par with Blade Runner 2049. It's great. Anyway, all-star cast: Timothée Chalamet, Rebecca Ferguson, Oscar Isaac, Josh Brolin, Dave Bautista, Zendaya. Most of these people appear and only have like a couple of moments. Like Zendaya has like 2 lines. But it's a big name cast. It's part 1 of 2, allegedly, adaptation of the novel. Galactic sci-fi kingdom, effectively, one of the great houses is told by the Emperor, go and take over the mining operation on this desert world that have their own indigenous people there that you are effectively going to have to rule over and subjugate. And there is a deeper bit of lore going on. There is a conspiracy element. There is a chosen one element where the son of this great household, Paul Atreides of the House Atreides, played by Timothée Chalamet, may or may not be a sort of psychic space messiah. But you know what? Here's about the most mainstream clip we could come up with. Here's he broing out with Jason Momoa.
I've been having dreams about Arrakis and the Fremen.
Okay. So?
I saw you with the Fremen.
So I do find them. There you go. That's a good omen right there, right?
You know what I love about when Denis Villeneuve takes on a film like this is the grandeur of it, the spectacle of it. He is a true auteur when it comes to knowing what an audience wants to see on a big screen.
Yeah.
I worry about it translating to a small screen and having that kind of gravity effect where this is only really for its its cinematic audience. But I also worry that you said that this is part 1 of 2, because if this does not make the money, we ain't seeing part 2, are we?
For how much money they spent on making this movie, there is not a chance in hell. Short of it actually being how they paid off Denis Villeneuve after the HBO Max decision at the end of last year, which I can believe. He has said that he's said in interviews that there have been assurances made to him. Now, I could very easily interpret that or believe that is a case of when they had to start doling out checks to all the filmmakers last Christmas. Sorry, we're dumping your movie onto streaming. Being the social sentiment, I would absolutely buy that the Denis Villeneuve was more concerned with getting that part 2, that he would have strong-armed them and said, just assure me that we're getting part 2, and I don't think any of us want the extra money. We'll just take part 2 and release it theatrically. I would believe that. For how much this is spent, he just hasn't got the clout. There's no mainstream appeal in this. Critics like you and I will watch this, come away, and exactly as we did with Blade Runner 2049, say, this is a fantastic work of science fiction that's like nothing else you will see. It is a singular vision. It is absolutely a wonderful, wonderful work of science fiction cinema. Joe Public is going to see this on day 1, come out and tell his friends, and rightly, absolutely understandably, Really great looking. It's boring as hell. And I will absolutely understand them doing that in the same way that I will understand them having done that for Blade Runner 2049. Because that's the reality of it. I think it's quite well done storytelling, but I do think it has been very narrow-mindedly made without much of a closed ending. It more or less just ends Lord of the Rings style on a end of part 1. Come back next time. Come back in 4 years' time. But I think it's excellent. I think it's a really great movie, despite the fact that it's half a great movie.
Yeah.
On another note, have you seen David Lynch's 1980s version of Dune?
No, and I was thinking, should I watch that before I go and see Dune?
Watch it, and watch it very secure in the knowledge that the first 2.5 hours of David Lynch's Dune make up the exact text of the entire 2.5 hours of Denis Villeneuve's Dune. It's just that David Lynch padded out the remaining half of the story, not padded out, but compressed it all into half an hour of montages with voiceover. That's how the quote-unquote original Dune, it's not the first adaptation, wasn't even the first attempt to do a film adaptation. Jodorowsky, I think, came first in the 70s. But and there's an entire documentary about that one. But yeah, I would say it's interesting to watch the two. I watched Lynch's after, for the first time many years after watching Villeneuve's, and I would say Lynch has been done dirty over the years, I think.
Okay.
He deserves some of it for that last half an hour, but I think he's been done dirty. And I think when people watch these two versions, they will wonder exactly what that was about.
Yeah, and also it's just to warn you guys, it's 2.5 hours.
2.5, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a big run time. But you know what? I caught Bond at the weekend, and I have to say those 2.5 hours or 2 hours 45 just flew by. So fingers crossed we get the same with this.
It's a cinema experience, though. I will say that I've seen it both on HBO Max and in cinema, and I can genuinely tell you, plonk down the money. In fact, just see it in IMAX or not at all would be a further step I'd take. IMAX this or don't see it at all. Think of this as Gravity in that exact same way.
Welcome back to Off Screen. So we moved from the cinema to your couch, and we have got quite the selection for you this week, which I'm really excited because we're kicking off with a double bill on your Saturday night, which is 3 Men and a Baby and 3 Men and a Little Lady. Two of my favourite films growing up with. This is on Great Movies at 4:45 p.m. Ted Danson, Steve Guttenberg, Tom Selleck. Oh, it's just... I love it. I love it so much.
It's so classic.
All the feels.
The concept, yeah, it is. And the best part is, the concept is so basic and has been done to death so many times elsewhere. It's, it's the wayward bachelor, gets the kid dropped off on his doorstep. The central gimmick here, the novelty, is that there's 3 of them. Although, a couple of weird things about this movie. I mean, we'll play a clip in a moment of Guttenberg and Dancer, but before I play this, one of these points, how weird is it to watch this movie now, like watching Ted Danson with his stash? Ted Danson as the actor.
Tom Selleck with his
Tom Selleck with the stash, and an adult Steve Guttenberg, knowing full well that these men are meant to be like in their late 20s. I mean, they're a decade younger than us in this movie, and yeah. They seem like they're middle-aged already. I know it's the 80s and everyone was like that, but I'll get to this, and I've got 2 things to tell you about this movie, at least one of which I'm sure you won't know.
All right, so now these tape things go in the front and the back.
How am I supposed to know?
Okay. There.
Whoa! These diapers are way too big. What size did you get?
They're ultra absorbent. The more absorbent, the better, if you ask me. Will you hold it for a minute? The kid's going crazy. I
don't want him.
Come on, Michael.
Hey, don't pull that so hard. It's gonna rip.
I'm not gonna rip it.
Yes, you are.
All right, well, okay. Get me another diaper. I'll use the tape. I'll use the tape from the diaper. I'll tape it up. I'm an architect, for Christ's sakes. I build 50-story skyscrapers. I assemble cities of the future. I can certainly put together a goddamn diaper. Take it easy, kid. All right?
Oh, my goodness. Just so much nostalgia there. This, to me, represents good, clean fun, right, in the movies.
Yeah. To be fair, it's rated quite low on the PG spectrum as well, but it has some vaguely adult humour in that 80s-ish way that still flies with younger audiences.
Yeah, totally. And I remember growing up, and actually this refers to 3 Men and a Little Lady, when they go to England. There was this whole thing about, if you look really carefully, I've never found this, apparently there's a ghost in the shot. that you?
No, it's the first one. It's the very first one. It's the first one. It's an urban legend. Now, the way this actually works is it comes up in a deleted scene because Ted Danson's character is an actor, and like he's off doing commercials for the bulk. He's off doing a role for the bulk of the first movie's plot. Like that's how he's not involved. It's a cardboard standee of him in an advert. And this gets brought up in a deleted scene, and then he's left in the background in another scene. But because he's in the background, he looks shorter. People interpreted this as it was a kid who died in the building.
Yes!
Not even the weirdest. Do you know who directed Three Men and a Baby?
No.
Genuine question.
No, I don't.
Leonard Nimoy, Mr.
What?
Spock.
Mr. Spock.
Mr. Spock. Do you know how well financially this did?
Probably badly. I think it's
No.
like, oh God, really?
Exact opposite direction. This was the highest grossing movie of 1987, overtaking Fatal Attraction. That is a true story.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, listen, you're getting two for the price of one.
When's
on
this
that
on, by the way?
highest.
We should probably cover
so this
that.
is on Saturday night. This is your Saturday night movie. Saturday afternoon movie, which is perfect because I could just sit there and just not watch anything else but these movies back to back. So it's on Great Movies on Saturday at 4:45 p.m. Moving on to Sunday, another great movie. Michael Fassbender steps into the shoes of Steve Jobs on 5 Select at 9 p.m. This for me is a movie like a play. This plays out. This is a three-hander, isn't it? So it's between Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniacki, and I can't remember who Kate Winslet's character, the name of
She's the journalist.
The journalist, and it's basically
the journalist, I think.
Yeah. So then it's just basically them kind of in a room in a way, or walking around kind of Apple at the time, and it's fascinating.
I've got that completely wrong, and you've just triggered me by saying they're walking around Apple. She does work for Apple. She's not the journalist. Sorry.
Right.
About that.
Okay.
My mistake. No, this is the one with Seth Rogen as Wozniak.
Yeah.
And this is the really, really good. Like, Fassbender does get the performance really well, I think, in this.
Because at the same time that came out, there was the Ashton Kutcher Steve Jobs movie as well.
Was that Jobs?
I think that was Jobs, and that just didn't really work. Whereas this one was kind of the one that was nominated at awards season, and there was real props to how they pulled this one off. I love this movie. I think it's a great Sunday night movie.
I know exactly why you like this movie, Bex.
Oh yeah.
Even if you don't know this information, I feel like on some subconscious level you do, and that's why you love it. It's because it's written by Aaron Sorkin. That's why you love it. Of course it is. I will say as well, though, the definitive Steve Jobs, and I'm going to shut this out for my boy Adam Healy, because he and I love this movie. It's a forgotten film, and the best Steve Jobs was Noah Wyle in 1998's Pirates of Silicon Valley, in which he starred opposite Anthony Michael Hall from Halloween Kills as Bill Gates. And it's great. It's a genuinely great movie. If you ever get the chance to see it, absolutely you should. On to another great movie, though, Monday night, 9 p.m. on ITV4. We'll be very quick on this one. Michael Mann's Collateral.
Yeah,
starring Jamie Foxx and a very against type Tom Cruise, in which a hitman basically hijacks a cab driver to serve as his chauffeur for one night whilst he just goes and does the rounds, taking out his target. The big twist being the hitman here is Tom Cruise. He's been played by Tom Cruise. You'd expect it to be Jamie Foxx, but no, Jamie Foxx is the cab driver. How good is Collateral, Bex?
It's so good. Have you just given a spoiler away, though?
No. That's literally the plot of the movie. It's Tom Cruise. No, from the marketing perspective, you would have marketed this, wouldn't you? As it'd be obvious that Jamie Foxx would be the hitman.
Great movie. And actually, for a Monday night, I think if you're wanting to kickstart your week with a bit of an adrenaline rush, this is going to be the movie that you're going to want to watch. It's on at 9 o'clock on ITV4. Of course, it wouldn't be a week without some sort of horror put in there. And obviously when Van takes a look at all the movies that I've pulled together, sometimes he goes, oh yeah, this will be nice, but where's the horror? And Tuesday night is when he's done this, and I don't know what he's swapped out, or maybe it was one of those days that I said, you know what, you can pick. I'm going to let you pick.
You said you pick, I think.
Okay, fine.
I went with four of my favourite things in the world: trash cinema, horror, action, and John Carpenter. I give you John Carpenter's Vampires, which is on the Horror Channel at 9 p.m. It's not an amazing movie or anything, but it is just trashy fun, and it is. I mean, he's problematic now. He was less so then. James Woods, as the leader of a Vatican-sanctioned vampire hunting team who troll the backwater deserts of like New Mexico and Texas, and just like drive around like carrying crossbows in the back of pickup trucks and hunting vampire nests all day, and then just getting drunk all night, and then getting picked off by a vampire leader that only James Woods can, of course, hunt down and take out. Here he is, basically giving all the exposition to their newly assigned Vatican liaison.
Have you ever seen a vampire? No. Well, first of all, they're not romantic, all right? It's not like they're a bunch of hopping around in rented formal wear and seducing everybody in sight with cheesy Eurotrash accents, all right? Forget whatever you've seen in the movies. They don't turn into bats. Crosses don't work. Garlic? You want to try garlic? You stand there with garlic around your neck. One of these bend you over and take a walk up your strata chocolata while he's sucking the blood out of your neck, all right? They don't sleep in coffins lined in taffeta. You want to kill one? You drive a wooden stake right through his heart. Sunlight turns them into crispy critters. Got it?
So there's like your traditional vampire movies, you know, the kind of Bela Lugosi sort of, you know, like Count Dracula kind of stuff. And then you've got this kind of From Dusk Till Dawn, redneck, you know, out in the desert kind of vampire movies. And I have to say, I love the latter. Like, this for me
it's even got a Baldwin. It's even got a Baldwin. That's how much fun it is. Not one of the good Baldwins, but it's got our Baldwin, so technically it counts.
Nice. It's fine.
And I'm not pitching you Adam Baldwin neither. I'm giving you an actual pure blood Baldwin, a
Stephen?
Daniel Baldwin in this case. No. This is not classy enough to have Stephen. This is Daniel.
Okay, fair enough. Let's move on to District 9, which is on Wednesday on Great Movies as well. That's happening at 11:10 p.m. District 9. What was the name of the director of this? Neil Blomkamp. Yeah, exactly. And I remember watching this and going, "Oh my god, this is like something that's going to change the game." And you know, and I really did think that, and I loved everything about this. I mean, it's about essentially an extraterrestrial race that is forced to live in like these slum conditions on Earth, and they find, I suppose there's a government agent that exposes their biotechnology and
Vicus. I think his name's Vicus something, isn't he?
Yeah,
I hear the accent in my head. Vicus.
But it's just a brilliantly solid movie, and then like Neil Blomkamp just doesn't really ever come to prominence this, which is a shame.
Makes good on this, and we'll mention him again when we get to the DVD section, incidentally, because he has got a new movie out next week.
Yeah.
Real quick though, so that's on 11:10, as you say, on Great Movies on Wednesday. Thursday night, we'll probably have to skip the clip for time reasons. Red Sparrow, Jennifer Lawrence's spy movie from, is it 3 years ago now? This is on 9 p.m. on Thursday night on Film 4, which is probably a good time for it, I think.
Yeah, it is. It's very it's about like training, not KGB training, but they're called Sparrows, but it's similar stuff to, if you can imagine this.
Like Black Widow, but serious, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And I really like this. It's like I say, it's very provocative in parts. It's very serious. It's got that kind of dull Soviet kind of look and feel and stark and bleakness.
There's a lot of
about
camo
it.
and grey.
Yeah, there really is, and like really like velvet walls on like internal walls in the rooms and stuff. It's very strange. But it's I think this is quite a solid movie, and for Jennifer Lawrence, she was obviously trying her hand at something new, something different, and it works for that reason. And then finally,
she's the best thing in it.
Yeah, 100%. I don't think it hits the heights that everyone was expecting, but I think it's definitely a solid watch for you for your Thursday night anyway. Friday, oh my goodness, I love this movie. It's on Great Movies is having a brilliant run this week at 7:05 p.m. on Friday. Turner and Hooch. We started with the 80s, we're going to finish with the 80s because Tom Hanks and a dog, it's amazing.
I'm just going to point out as well, okay, so we started out talking about Three Men series. That's getting remade for Disney Plus with Zac Efron. Turner and Hooch is now a Disney Plus series with Lindsay Fonseca and Josh Peck. And I only know that because of Instagram. So, yeah, there's a real Disney Plus connection running through this week as well. I'm reasonably sure there's probably a District 9 series being developed for streaming over there as well.
It's because there are these classic formulas that work. And, you know, and it's about bringing new audiences into that. Whether or not us as the old nostalgic audience want to see that is a whole different thing, though.
It is weird to think now that obviously Tom Hanks, like we know, would win this today. It wasn't a cert back then, but there was a Deep Impact Armageddon-style rivalry between cop and dog partner movies. And on the one hand, you had Turner and Hooch, which looked like the sort of raggedy underdog. And then you had the slightly more upmarket one, which was K9.
Yes.
Which starred, is it Jim Belushi, isn't it? It's James Belushi.
Yeah.
Which was the same movie. But obviously the Tom Hanks one had bags more charm.
Yeah, exactly. So look, if you're after a charmingly fitting end to your week and the kicking off of the weekend, then Turner and Hooch is the movie for you, and that's on at 7:05 p.m. on Great Movies on Friday. Well, that is all of our picks for keeping you on the couch. We're going to keep you there to some extent if you're wanting to get out your DVD, Blu-rays and streaming, but that is the world beyond what is on Freeview. So stick with us. We'll be back very shortly.
Welcome back for one last ride off screen. So, taking you down the DVD, Blu-ray, we should actually call it DVD, Blu-ray, and digital, really, if we're being technical, because if it's out on DVD and Blu-ray, it's guaranteed that it's out on digital, right? Like, that's the logic.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we've actually got, when we have those weeks, we have nothing. We've got one of those this week, we've got 3. Last week we had 4 or 5, didn't we? But week before that, 0. So it's funny how these things are working. This week, Shyamalan is coming to shiny disc formats. You were just saying that you hadn't had the chance to catch this one yet, Bex.
No.
You now can. Yeah, Old is finally here. This was, I thought, pretty decent, actually. You're familiar with the concept, aren't you?
So the concept is that they go on, this family or people go onto an island and they start aging, like, really quickly. And that's the horror of it.
Like a resort. I think it's like a group of couples and families at a resort get told there's a private beach down there, you should go down there, it's really great. They go down there, they find they're trapped. Not only are they trapped, like sort of, because the whole thing's like a Twilight Zone episode, but that they are aging at an increased rate. And they only start to notice this, of course, when they're very young children, then sort of immediately become Alex Wolff, for instance. They become like teenagers. I think not bad. If you're looking for a sort of fun thriller that's probably not going to go where you think it's going to go, check this out. This is worth a look. I think it's not one of the stronger Shyamalan movies, but it's a Shyamalan movie in 2021. I mean,
yeah.
what do you think?
I mean, Shyamalan is interesting. He's one of my hit and miss directors. Sometimes he pulls out an absolute corker, and then sometimes it's just a bit sort of like meh. But that's good. That's really good to hear on this. Now, something that is not an absolute corker, and in fact something that should be avoided at all costs, but we have a duty to tell you that it is out, is Space Jam: A New Legacy. Oh my goodness. This is one of the first movies, I think, did we watch this like post when cinemas started opening and we could go back into screenings or something? And we
one of the first weeks, I think, wasn't
Yeah.
it? Because this was like mid-July or something.
Mid-July, and we were like, yeah, we're back. And then we watched this and we're like, oh my God, send me home. It was literally...
This was soulless.
Oh my God. So LeBron James is the Michael Jordan character in this. And anyone that has watched the original Space Jam has an affinity, a love, a nostalgic connection to it. So was genuinely excited to see what they're going to do with this.
You know, the thing as well is, I've just said it was soulless. Obviously, the original is soulless, but, it's a corporate... it's a corporate object. It's a commodity. It's obviously not a film. But at least everyone felt like they were enjoying... Everyone except Bill Murray felt like they were enjoying themselves being there,
Yeah.
This just feels like everybody here just wanted to die. You know what I mean?
Who was the guy that plays the AI in this? It's...
Rhodey, that's Don Cheadle, man. That's
Don Cheadle.
Algie Rhythm is played by Don Cheadle,
Rhythm.
yeah.
If you've ever seen a fantastic actor failed by a terrible script, this is the movie for you. It's awful what they've done to him.
Don Cheadle was more emotionally invested in Ocean's 12 than he is in Space Jam: A New Legacy. That's how low this is.
This is
anyway,
just so terrible.
On which notes, here's Pepper. Here's Porky Pig rapping.
We rapping now? We rapping? Show 'em who you really are, notorious P.I.G. Oh boy, here goes nothing. What up? It's Porky Pig. They call me P-double-L-G. Step to me, he don't want no trouble. I was famous before the internet. Since 1935, I've been getting respect. This pig is lit. I'm super legit. Every time I'm out in public, people asking me for pics. Nobody knows you when you walk the street. How your last name rhythm and you're still off beat. From beginning to the end, I'm here for all the smoke. Your squad ain't all star, your squad is all jokes. And just with one bar, most famous of all quotes. This battle is now over. That's all, folks.
Let's hope that is all, folks. Let's move swiftly on from that. Right, we talked about Neil Blomkamp in District 9 on your Freeview offerings. We're going to talk about him again in Demonic, Van.
Yeah, this is basically this is his COVID project, essentially. This is what he made during lockdown. Stars Carly Pope, you might remember as one of the two leads from the TV series Popular, once upon a time. You remember? She was the brunette one.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
Yeah, she was, because it was the brunette's mum married the blonde's dad. I forget. Anyway, that's Popular. But the whole thing is that talking about Popular is infinitely more enjoyable than talking about Demonic, which is this really ramshackle, quite badly put together riff on The Cell, of all things. Remember The Cell with J-Lo and Vincent D'Onofrio from 20 years ago? 2000, 2001, I think. This is basically that. D'Onofrio.
You call him D'Onofrio. I call him Donofrio.
Donofrio. Trust me as a Marvel fan, it's D'Onofrio. It's literally the same plot as Demonic. So a woman needs to get through to someone using virtual reality. You're like, oh god! But it's done as this sort of possession horror movie. Not very good. Can't advise that you watch it, but if you absolutely need to pick up something whilst you're picking up the Papa John's, this weekend, then it's a quick grab in Sainsbury's, I suppose. On to streaming, and one that does have some bizarre potential, actually, is a new movie that has ties to Zack Snyder, of all things. It's Army of Thieves, which is out on Netflix on the 29th, on next Friday. Did you know about this one?
I didn't know about it, but I think you and I have conflicting views about Army of the Dead. Is it Army of the Dead?
Yeah. It is Army of the Dead. This is the kind of the prequel to Army of the Dead. This is like a heist movie. Not about the zombies, though. It's just a heist movie that's unconnected, but involves certain characters from.
I really enjoyed Army of the Dead, and I know you didn't love it, but I found it like bags of fun.
No, it's fun. I had some good times with it.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm actually quite excited. So has Zack Snyder made this one as well?
I think he's just a producer on it, and I think this is like one of his second unit people or his stuntman. The character, I think it's the Safecracker character. The sort of quirky, was he German or something?
Oh, yes.
The blonde guy, it's him. It's his story, effectively, but his prequel kind of story. That's what this movie is.
I think I've seen a trailer for this. Yeah.
Well, we might have to review it for next week. We don't know yet.
Okay. Well, I'm quite excited about that, to be honest. And then moving on, great film to end the show today. We are talking on Disney Plus on Friday is Ready or Not. This is like, we brought you films like Escape Room and stuff like that, which is all based around games. This is like a really almost like Gothic style game thing where basically it starts off with a young married couple who get finally sort of enter into this big sort of grand family, and they discover that is it every year they play this game?
It's every time one of them gets married.
Okay.
Every time a new member of the family, every time a new person is brought into the family, it is tradition for this board game empire running family to be dealt a card, and they will play whichever game the card tells them. Only our lead here, played by Samara Weaving or Sam Weaving, depending on what you call her, has the misfortune of drawing the card that offers up the most deadliest of all the games, hide and seek.
I have to call the others.
No, you don't. No, you can help me, please.
This doesn't end well for you. I just don't want to be the one to serve you up.
Daniel, I'm begging you.
I'm really sorry about all this. It's true what they say, the rich really are different. I'll give you a 10-second head start.
Oh, this is rip-roaring fun. It is literally like, go into this, have no expectations, and see a fantastic performance from Sam Weaving, and just enjoy it for what it is, because it's like an hour and a half of you going, what the hell's going on? This is nuts.
You know who I really loved in this movie as well? Did not see this coming. Did not go walk into this movie thinking that person's absolutely going to be my MVP. Andy McDowell, of all people. Yeah, so much fun. Like Adam Brody, you expect to be fun, but not Andy McDowell.
She's like the
Wow.
matriarch of the family, isn't she? And it's great. Brilliant cast, really fun concept, huge like potential with this movie, and it delivers. And I think that's the main thing.
And it's got one of those just like, it's got the ability to just go brilliantly like Cabin in the Woods level gut punching with you, which I respect any movie that's going to go. The comedian Reginald D. Hunter refers to them as FU movies.
Totally.
I have to respect that for. But it's a good one. It's a good one to end the week with. So next Friday, that's on Disney Plus, alongside Army of Thieves, which is on Netflix. Hell of a way to end this week, I think. Ready or Not. What a movie. I'm going to watch that again. That is a hell of a time.
Yeah, it's a great movie. Right, brilliant. So listen, this is this week's off-screen podcast for you. We will be back, as we are every week, with more movie offerings, which include more big cinematic bumper weeks. I'm sure that might be the case again.
Next week is Last Night in Soho and Antlers.
yes.
So we probably will get to cover Army of Thieves if there's a screening link going, if we're being honest.
Yeah. Okay, we'll be looking into that for you guys. So we'll be back as ever. But for now, I've been Becks Perfect.
I've been Van Connor, and we shall return.